Have you ever had that uneasy feeling in your gut? Like something just isn't right with the way someone treats you? Maybe it's a friend, a neighbor, even a family member. On the surface, they seem kind, caring, even generous with their words. But deep down, period. You can't shake the sense that you're giving more than you're getting, that somehow this relationship leaves you feeling drained instead of lifted. You see, as we get older, our time, energy, and trust become even more precious. We've been through enough in life to know that not everyone who smiles at us is truly on our side. Yet, even with all our wisdom, it's still possible to get caught in someone else's game, where they take, and give little or nothing back. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. In this conversation, we're going to explore the subtle, often hidden signs that a person is using you rather than truly caring for you. This isn't about becoming cynical or mistrusting everyone. Far from it. It's about protecting yourself so you can save your warmth and kindness for the people who actually deserve it. Some of these signs will be so subtle you might miss them if you're not paying attention. Others will seem obvious once you hear them, and you might even think, "How did I not see that before?" But together we'll walk through them in a way that helps you not only spot the red flags, but also decide what to do when you see them. Let's begin with something that might sound small, but it speaks volumes about a person's true character. Whether or not they keep their promises. Think about it. A promise is more than just a string of words. It's a commitment, a handshake from the heart. When someone says, "I'll be there," or "I'll help you with that," they're making a little deposit into your trust bank. But when they break that promise, especially over and over again, they're not just withdrawing from that account, they're stealing from it. I've known people who could talk the sweetest talk, painting big, beautiful pictures of what they'll do, how they'll help, the good times you'll share. But when the time comes to show up, to actually do the thing they said they would, suddenly, they're too busy. Something came up. Or worse, they just disappear without a word. And here's the thing, life happens. We all forget things sometimes, or get caught in unexpected situations. But when broken promises become a pattern, that's not an accident. That's a choice. And often, it's a sign that the promises were never about you in the first place. They were about keeping you hooked, keeping you hopeful, keeping you available to give more of your time, your help, your emotional energy, without them having to give much back. If you've ever been in that situation, you know how it feels. First, there's disappointment. Then comes that little sting of betrayal. And if it happens often enough, you start to doubt yourself. Maybe I was asking too much. Maybe it's my fault? But let me be clear, if someone values you, they value their word. They follow through even when it's inconvenient. Now let's move to another sign that someone isn't really in your corner. And this one can be even more damaging over time. The way they speak to you, especially when it comes to your achievements, your goals, or your struggles. Some people have a talent for giving compliments that aren't really compliments. They might laugh off your successes, poke fun at your dreams, or make a joke that leaves you feeling smaller instead of bigger. Maybe you share a story about trying a new hobby, and they respond with, "Oh, good luck with that. You'll probably quit like last time." They smile, maybe even chuckle, but their words land like tiny darts. The danger with this kind of behavior is that it's often subtle. If you call them out on it, they might say, "Oh, come on, I was just joking, don't be so sensitive." And so, you start to question yourself. Am I overreacting? But over time, those little digs chip away at your confidence. They make you second-guess your abilities, your decisions, even your worth. Why would someone who claims to care about you do that? Often it's about control. If they can keep you doubting yourself, you're less likely to challenge them, less likely to walk away, more likely to keep giving and giving while expecting less in return. And sometimes these remarks aren't really about you at all. They're about their own insecurities. Putting you down makes them feel taller. But knowing their reasons doesn't make it okay. You deserve people who celebrate your wins, who encourage your efforts, who listen to your challenges without belittling them. Now, period. There's another pattern that often shows up alongside these first two, and it's one of the clearest signs you're being used. The relationship always benefits them more than it benefits you. Maybe it's about money. They borrow, they ask for favors, they forget to pay you back, but when you're in a bind, they're suddenly nowhere to be found. Maybe it's emotional. They call you when they're lonely or upset, unload all their troubles, and then disappear once they feel better, without ever asking how you're doing. Or maybe it's practical. They expect you to help with errands, watch their pets, drive them places, but when you need a hand, there's always an excuse. This kind of one-sidedness is exhausting. It's like carrying a backpack filled with rocks for someone who never even offers to carry your water bottle. At first, you might not notice, especially if you're naturally giving and you enjoy helping. But eventually, you realize that you're the one pouring all your energy into the relationship, while they're just holding out their cup for refills. It's important to understand, healthy relationships, whether they're friendships, family bonds, or partnerships, have balance. Not necessarily 50-50 at every moment, but a natural give and take over time. If you find yourself always on the giving end and never on the receiving end, that's not balance. That's being used. And if you've been nodding along to any of these signs so far, I want you to know something. Spotting these patterns isn't about blaming yourself or feeling foolish. It's about honoring the fact that you are worth more than crumbs of attention, empty promises, and lopsided relationships. It's about choosing to invest your time, your kindness, and your trust where they'll be valued. When someone consistently puts their needs, wants, and priorities at the center of the stage, while yours barely get a mention, it can leave you feeling invisible. This is another sign of someone who's not truly invested in you. They disregard your needs or feelings as if they don't matter. You might notice it in the way they brush off your concerns or change the subject when you open up about something important. Maybe you tell them you've been feeling lonely and they respond with, "Oh, that's too bad. Hey, did I tell you what happened to me yesterday?" That may sound harmless on the surface, but when it becomes a pattern, it chips away at your emotional well-being. Over time, you might start believing that your feelings really aren't worth much, simply because this person has acted as if they aren't. And here's the truth. It's not that your needs are too big or your feelings too sensitive. It's that this person doesn't want to step outside their own comfort zone to make room for yours. This isn't just thoughtlessness. In many cases, it's a quiet way to keep control. If they minimize or ignore what matters to you, they don't have to change anything about their behavior. They get to keep all the benefits of the relationship without putting in the emotional work it takes to make it mutual. But a relationship without mutual respect for each other's needs is like trying to row a boat with one oar. It's always going to go in circles, and eventually, you just get tired. Another tactic that can be even more draining is emotional manipulation. At first, it might feel like they really care. They listen, they comfort you, they know just what to say to make you feel understood. But then, you start noticing how their support always seems to lead to you doing something for them. They might praise you when it gets them what they want, but the moment you push back or set a boundary, the mood shifts. Suddenly you're made to feel guilty, ungrateful, or even selfish. It's like they're playing an emotional seesaw, one moment lifting you up, the next dropping you down, just to keep you off balance. And when you're off balance, you're easier to control. They might downplay your accomplishments so you don't feel too confident, or exaggerate your mistakes so you feel you need their approval. It's not about helping you grow, it's about keeping you in a place where they can steer your emotions to suit their needs. If you've experienced this, you know how confusing it can be. You might start questioning your own feelings. Am I being too sensitive? Am I overreacting? That's the power of emotional manipulation. It gets inside your head, and once it's there, it can make you doubt your instincts. But your instincts are there for a reason. When something doesn't feel right, that's your inner wisdom speaking. Then there's the absence of genuine support. You share your dreams or struggles, hoping for encouragement, or maybe just a listening ear. But what you get back feels half-hearted. They nod politely, say, "Good luck," or offer a vague, "I'm here for you." But when it's time for action, they vanish. Or they show up in a way that's so minimal it doesn't actually help. This isn't about expecting someone to solve your problems for you. It's about having people in your life who show up when you need them, in the good times and the bad. If they only seem interested in your life when it somehow benefits them, that's not real support. That's opportunism dressed up as friendship. It can be even more hurtful when the relationship turns into a competition. Instead of celebrating your victories, they try to outdo you. Instead of offering a hand when you stumble, they point out how they've done better. This might be subtle, a small comment here, a little comparison there, but over time, you realize that every interaction feels like a scorecard. Why do some people compete with the very people they claim to care about? Often it's insecurity. They measure their worth by being better than others, so your success feels like a threat. But relationships aren't meant to be arenas where one person wins and the other loses. They're meant to be safe places where both people can grow, sometimes side by side, sometimes taking turns lifting each other up. When you're dealing with someone who's always trying to one-up you, it changes the energy of the relationship. You start holding back your wins because you don't want to trigger their competitiveness. You might even downplay your struggles because you know they'll use them as a chance to shine by comparison. That's not connection, that's rivalry, and rivalry doesn't build trust. And here's another truth that might hit close to home. People like this often vanish in the moments you need them most. When everything's going well, they're right there beside you, laughing, sharing the good times. But let the waters get rough, and suddenly they're hard to reach. Maybe they have too much going on to take your call. Maybe they forgot you were going through something. Or maybe they just don't want to be around when there's nothing in it for them. It's in these difficult moments, the times when you're hurting, overwhelmed, or simply in need of a friend, that you really see a person's true colors. Anyone can show up when the sun is shining. The real test is whether they'll still be there when the sky turns gray. When someone's presence in your life is marked by taking far more than they give, you start to notice another subtle but telling pattern: the lack of reciprocity. You're the one who calls to check in, the one who organizes get-togethers, the one who remembers birthdays and special moments. Meanwhile, they respond only when it's convenient, and rarely, if ever, initiate anything themselves. It's as if the weight of the relationship sits squarely on your shoulders while they simply enjoy the ride. It might not seem like a big deal at first, especially if you're naturally giving. But over time, the imbalance becomes harder to ignore. Healthy connections are like a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes they do. But both of you keep the music going. When you're the only one stepping to the rhythm, it's not a partnership anymore. It's you doing all the work while they tap their foot on the sidelines. Then there's the betrayal that comes with gossip and broken trust. You might think you're sharing something in confidence, a personal struggle, a private dream, maybe even a fear you haven't told anyone else. And then you hear it repeated back to you, twisted or exaggerated, from someone who was never supposed to know. That's a gut punch, not just because your trust was broken, but because it was used as currency in someone else's social game. People who do this often justify it by saying they were just talking, or didn't think it was a big deal. But here's the thing. When someone values you, they protect your privacy. They guard your words, not scatter them like seeds for their own benefit. If they're willing to talk about others behind their backs with you, chances are they're doing the same with your story when you're not in the room. Another red flag is selective availability. When they need something, your time, your help, your listening ear, they can find you without trouble. You might wait days for a callback, only to have them show up again when it suits them. It's like you're an open door they can walk through anytime while they keep their own door locked unless it's in their interest to open it. This isn't about expecting people to be available 24/7. It's about noticing the pattern. Are they absent when you need them yet present when they need you? That imbalance is not accidental. It's a way of keeping the power in their hands, so you're always the one chasing their time and attention. And then there's guilt, one of the most effective tools for keeping someone in a one-sided relationship. They might remind you of all the things they've done for you, no matter how small or long ago. They might phrase requests in ways that make refusal sound selfish or unkind. You end up saying yes, not because you truly want to, but because you feel you'd be a bad person if you said no. Guilt tripping is a form of emotional control, and the more you give into it, the harder it becomes to break free. You start ignoring your own needs to keep them happy, and before long, you're living in a cycle of resentment and exhaustion. But here's the truth. Healthy relationships don't require you to compromise your well-being to prove your loyalty. Another sign is their lack of interest in your life. They can talk for hours about their own stories, their own problems, their own triumphs. But when it's your turn to share, they get distracted, change the subject, or just offer a polite, "Oh, that's nice," before steering the conversation back to themselves. It's subtle, but it sends a clear message. What matters to you doesn't matter to them. And sometimes they'll create what looks like closeness, but it's only on the surface. You might share laughs, attend events together, exchange regular messages. But when life gets serious, they pull away. They're there for the light and easy parts, but not for the moments that require effort, sacrifice, or true emotional connection. It's intimacy without depth, and while it might feel warm in the short term, it leaves you cold when you really need someone to lean on. All of this often comes down to one final glaring truth: a persistent lack of respect. It might show up in the way they talk over you, dismiss your opinions, or ignore your boundaries. It might be subtle, little digs, eye rolls, or sarcasm, or it might be blunt and obvious. Either way, respect is the foundation of any real relationship. Without it, there's no safety, no trust, no genuine care. When respect is missing, every interaction becomes a power struggle. They're not listening to understand. They're listening for an opening to assert control or prove themselves right. Over time, this erodes your self-worth and can even make you feel like you have to shrink yourself just to keep the peace. If you've recognized any of these patterns in your own life, I want you to take a deep breath and remember this. Noticing these signs is not about becoming bitter or shutting people out. It's about valuing yourself enough to see when a relationship is hurting more than it's helping. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say no without explaining yourself. You have the right to invest your time and love in people who show up, who listen, who give as well as take. And you have the right to step back from anyone who can't or won't do that. It's never too late to make changes that protect your peace. Every season of life offers the chance to build relationships that nourish rather than drain you. And when you do, you'll find that your days feel lighter, your heart feels safer, and your trust becomes a gift you give to those who truly deserve it. So if something feels off, trust your instincts. If the effort always feels one-sided, pay attention. And if you find yourself questioning whether someone really cares, ask yourself how their actions, not just their words, have shown it. You've spent decades giving your best to others. Now's the time to make sure the people around you are giving their best back to you. Protect your energy. Guard your kindness. And remember, The relationships worth keeping are the ones that make you feel respected, valued, and loved. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from a one-sided relationship? How did you know it was time? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. It truly helps our community grow. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life so you never miss the conversations that help you live with more peace, confidence, and joy. Here's to living your best life at any age, surrounded by people who see your worth, honor your trust, and meet your kindness with kindness of their own.